very good sound system.
Hello everyone, my name is Aryan and this is the Horsepower Show. Today we are back in beautiful Vancouver, like I said, and this is the car that we're going to be comparing the Porsche Macan with. This is the 2018 Subaru Crosstrek. This is the key to the 2018 Subaru Crosstrek. It's a very standard key. You got your lock and you press the Subaru logo to unlock the vehicle, and then you got that button that opens the trunk back there, and then the alarm. So it's a very standard key. Moving on to the actual car. Now this color is really interesting. I don't know exactly what it's called, but at first it may seem like a color that you'd really hate or that you really love. When we first got this car, I hated the color, but ever since and every time I saw it, it just kept on growing on me, and now I'm just super in love with it. This is the brand new design to the 2018 Crosstrek. Starting with the headlights, you've got brand new LEDs, and I think these are one of the most coolest parts of the car, and the lines that come with the lights are super sharp and on cool angles. You've got the fog lights, because after all, Subaru does consider this an off-road vehicle, and that's basically the entire purpose of these the series of videos, is because I'm comparing the Subaru with the Porsche. So it's basically a bit of off-road versus luxury and performance. The front of the car, I mean, it's pretty standard. It's got the fog lights, you've got the grille, you've got a couple sensors here and there, but there's not much to it. However, let's move on to the side of the car where you've got those wheels. Like the color at first, I'm not too sure on how these wheels are in my opinion, but I mean they're not too bad. And then as we move on to the back, something that I noticed that's pretty cool is if you actually zoom into these panels here that are on the front and the back wheels, you can actually see they've got a certain texture and feel to them. I guess that's pretty cool, but something that's kind of annoying is that these two panels don't exactly match up. But I mean, it's okay. Subaru has also given an all-new look to the back of the car as well, with the new headlights, rear bumper and everything. But something that I want to point out, besides the hugely large reflectors that are for legal reasons, is if you stand at the back of the car, you don't see an exhaust. Well, if you're standing at my height, the exhaust doesn't pop out like in other cars, but it's when you get really up close and under the car is where you see the exhaust pipe. And I actually give credit to Subaru for doing that, because it's really ugly when there's a little pipe that's pointing out of the back. This is the all-wheel drive version of the Crosstrek, and let's open the trunk over here. So the key was actually in my pocket, so I just lift that up, and you got, you know, your normal standard winter Canadian stuff that you gotta have for when it snows over here. And I mean, in terms of room in the back, this isn't exactly a huge SUV, it's more like a crossover. So basically, you're not gonna get as much room as you would in a bigger SUV. You've also got the 4 parking sensors on the rear bumper as well, and a bit of a diffuser there. Alright, let's hop on inside. So the key is actually in my pocket and the car is locked right now. But if I open the door, it opens up and we are greeted by the interior of the car. Now that we're inside the car, there's plenty to talk about in here. First, we've got the Harman Kardon sound system, and I will demonstrate that in a minute because it's an insanely good sound system. Let's close the door here, and we are greeted by Subaru excellence in this car. So on the door handles, you've got this fake carbon fiber trim that actually looks pretty good. So it has a very nice gloss finish, and you have that on both sides. But when we move on to the back in a second, you'll see that the same piece, the exact same piece exists. However, it's not in a gloss finish. It's more like a matte finish, if you will. You've got the wing mirrors as well, and something that's very interesting is, and it's actually the same as the Porsche, is that you have this little black panel on the side mirrors, and that is your blind zone detector. So like I mentioned in previous videos with the Porsche, whenever there's something in your blind zone, a little light pops up in that black panel. You've got all your standard window settings here and different buttons here. This button is for the blind zone, so if you don't want that black panel to flash up when there's something in your blind zone, then you can just press that button to turn the entire system off. On the steering wheel, we have way more buttons than we have on the Porsche. Here we have all the buttons that control that screen over there. So you can go back or forward on the tracks if you've got a CD in there. This is for volume, source, info, so for vehicle settings on that big screen that I'll show you guys in a minute. And these two buttons are for the Bluetooth when your phone is connected, so you can answer calls or hang up on calls. You've got the big Subaru logo in there. And then you got various things for the lane departure system, and which you have the same thing in the Porsche as well. And the cruise control, where you can set to what speed you want and stuff like that. And you can also change the CD mixer by pressing these two buttons to choose which CD that you want to play from the car. Another cool thing is that there's actually paddles in this car to change gear manually. So you got the left paddle that changes down here, and the right paddle that changes up over there. It's also got a heated steering wheel, which is something that the Porsche does not have. But something that I want to point out in this interior is the stitching. So as you can tell, there's just a load of orange stitching everywhere to contrast with this dark gray and whitish leather here. And that goes all the way, all around the car, everywhere in the interior. And that's something that I absolutely adore. This car has two very big technologies that I find very cool. So one is obviously the lane departure system that I mentioned, and you can, if you want that off, you can press that. But another thing is, if a car like suddenly brakes in front of you and you don't notice, then the computer, a little message pops up on this screen here that there's a car in front of you, and it beeps at you and it notifies you that a car has suddenly stopped in front of you, or that type of thing. You can press that button there to turn it off. These two buttons control the sunroof, and this is just a regular sunroof. Like, it's not the big panoramic one that goes all the way back like it was in the Porsche, but I mean, this will do for when you want some air in the car. Down here you've got your heated seats, so you can have them on two levels. You can have them on high or on low, or just nothing at all. This is X mode, which is very similar to the downhill / off-road mode that was in the Porsche Macan. So basically when you're going down hills or you're going on bumpy surfaces, you can actually press that mode, press that button that activates X mode, and basically it helps you with going off-road or going down hills and that type of thing. Here we've got all of the settings and the buttons for the AC and cooling, and let's actually turn the car on so that I can show you the screen that's here. So I've got the key in my pocket, and all I have to do is press the engine start-stop. So that's something that's very interesting because that actually doesn't exist. The start-stop system where you press the button doesn't exist in the Porsche. Instead, it's a button, well, it's the fake dummy key that's on the left side of the steering wheel that you have to turn. So it's way more old-fashioned in that sense. On this screen, you have got your rev counter here, and then you have got a little screen in the middle here where it shows your speed and how much fuel you have on the bottom here. But something that's interesting is while you're driving, it actually shows your fuel consumption. So if your fuel consumption is very high, then it will be this little bar. It wouldn't be on the orange and yellow side, it would be on the green side. But if you're, for example, just sitting in traffic, then you'd be wasting a lot of fuel. But in situations such as, for example, driving in a very high gear on the highway, and not having to accelerate and brake all the time, that would be considered as having good fuel consumption. And then on here we've got the regular speedometer. So by pressing this info button, I can actually change what's showing on that screen over there. So as standard, it does show you the time and the temperature outside and the temperature that's in the vehicle. But if I press the info button, then various cool things come up. So for example, this button shows what you have, what settings are on in the car. So basically, if you have the lane departure on, or if you have the blind zone on, it shows various different settings. Next one is actually a very cool screen, or a very cool display that demonstrates vehicle dynamics. So in the left screen, you can actually see the all-wheel drive system being activated, and you can see how the wheels are turning. And the right screen, you can see the incline that you're on. So if you're going up a very high hill, then it'll show you the degree of that hill. Next, you got water temperature, oil temperature, and average speed. And then you have your location and the weather. So for example, Vancouver, BC. It's a very cloudy and foggy day out right now, but it's supposed to be sunny. And then basically this just shows you where you are, if you're going north or whatever. And then this is the USB that's connected. And then this screen is also very interesting. It actually shows you your fuel consumption and your range and everything that has to do with how much fuel you have and how much more you have to go until you get to until you have to fill your fuel tank up. And then we have a standard clock, date and time, that type of thing. And then we're back. So there are various different things that you can look at on the screen while you're driving. Although it may be a huge distraction, it's still very cool. So moving on to the main screen in the car, you've got different things you can do. So you can press the home button and it'll go to the different apps you have. So you can either go into the radio, where you can have AM, FM, and then you can have presets for which radios you listen to most. If we go back home, then we can go to apps, and then there's different apps you can have. So you can connect your Apple CarPlay or your Android Auto. I don't know why you would ever have an Android, but if you do, then you could sync it up with the car. And then different like Subaru stuff, Pandora, that type of thing that no one uses. Settings, you can actually adjust different car settings. So driver profile, brightness adjustment, display screen, Wi-Fi. And if we go to sound, you can adjust the gain and that type of thing. And then you can add your phone stuff. This is for navigation, so you can change the view on the map, save your home address, that type of thing. And then vehicle settings, so the clock, adjusting the clock, auto light sensor, interior lights, the defogger, different settings for the general vehicle. And then you have your add shortcuts. So basically, if you listen to a certain channel on the radio very often, when you press home, you could just go straight to that. that type of thing. Media, let me demonstrate the amazing speakers in this car.
It's a very good sound system.
So yeah, it's a very good sound system. My ears just went on fire for a second there, but I mean, that's okay. So you can have your USB, your Bluetooth, your aux cord, that type of thing. If we go back home, you can have your phone connected, so Bluetooth, you know, the stuff that's in there. And then if you go to map, it shows us our location, that type of thing. Here we obviously have the normal gears, but then if you go down into drive and then over into manual, you can change gears manually, similar to what we had in the Porsche. And then when you turn the car off, there's a little message up there that says goodbye. So it's a very polite car for if you're looking for a very courteous car, this is the car to buy. In the back, there is not that much legroom, but I mean, you have to respect the fact that this is not a full-size SUV. It's more like a crossover, so there's not so much space in this back section here. So basically, the orange stitching theme, it continues in the back here, and it's absolutely amazing. Like, I got my camera bag there, and it's a pretty standard. It doesn't have that many, it doesn't have that much space, but it's comfortable, especially for someone like me that has long legs. And this was the fake carbon finish that I was talking about in the back. Alright peeps, I say we take this thing for a drive. What do you guys think?